Now, it's kind of hard to believe that this coming December, it will have already been 7 years since the release of the first Star Wars movie of the Disney era, that of course being The Force Awakens, as well as 3 years since the last one to come out, that being The Rise of Skywalker. And that it'll be at least another 3 years before we get the next Star Wars film, according to Disney's current release schedule, that is, which just updated and saw Rogue Squadron officially removed from its December 2023 slot, but did keep spots open for Star Wars films in December of 2025 and 2027, for whatever that is worth. And though the removal of Rogue Squadron comes as no real surprise, we already heard that there was an indefinite delay because Patty Jenkins, who is set to write and direct, is busy with many other projects. Some were holding out hope, though, that one of the other announced films, like the one from Taika Waititi, or maybe the one that Kevin Feige is supposed to produce, some were hoping one of those would be taking that next Christmas spot. But now it seems like that officially will not be the case, and many are starting to wonder if any of these announced films will ever actually see the light of day, or if we'll ever see another Star Wars film at all, despite there still, as mentioned a moment ago, being placeholder dates for them. Some are starting to wonder if Star Wars won't just become a Disney Plus thing. Which is kind of crazy when you really think about it, that arguably the biggest, most beloved film franchise in history would stop making films. And though honestly I don't think that'll be the case at all, I do think or feel with near absolute certainty Star Wars will return to the theaters someday, it is hard to believe how long it's taking them to get things together on the film front when the initial idea for the franchise, when Disney purchased it, was to get out at least one film per year. But of course the problem with that, or when it was more or less keeping to that one film a year schedule, is that box office returns kept trending downward until the last two films released were relative failures, with Solo actually losing money and The Rise of Skywalker, the final film in the sequel trilogy, only netting half of what the first film of the trilogy made. Which, yes, was still $1 billion, which is good and does sound great at face value, but when you consider we're talking about a movie that was billed as the end of the Skywalker saga, the culmination of a story 40 plus years in the making, well, it easily should have and could have done much better. It should have been potentially more on par with what Avengers Endgame pulled off. And after all these failures, it was actually Bob Iger, CEO of Disney at the time, who more or less stood up and took the blame, saying he was the one who pushed for a release schedule that was too ambitious, that maybe Star Wars couldn't support one film a year, that people were getting Star Wars fatigue, which is laughable when you consider, again, we're talking about the most beloved and popular film franchise in history, and that Marvel tends to release 2 to 3 films a year and doesn't seem to suffer from the same problem. Not to mention, we've been getting multiple Star Wars shows per year on Disney+, which tends to say people aren't tired of Star Wars itself, as much as they weren't willing to pay to see what many consider to be average or even bad movies. And Iger knew this but didn't want to say it. Instead, again, he took the blame, or took it and then placed it again on Star Wars fatigue, instead of placing the blame on the films and those actually making them, which is where the real problem lies. Either way, the thing is, Bob Iger has been gone from Disney for a couple of years now, and in those couple of years, we've had no sort of plan for movies from either new Disney CEO Bob Chapek or from Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy, beyond the announcement of some writers and directors they've hired that will, maybe one day make a film when they have some time, which is something I've talked about quite a bit before, how Kathleen Kennedy seems to go with the who's hot now type writers and directors, types that don't want to put Star Wars first, who put them at the back of the line, treat them like a second-class franchise while they do other things first. Anyway, the only announcement of an actual film or name and apparent plan for one has been Rogue Squadron, which was almost 2 years ago now and has been seeing nothing but issues along the way, up to the point of, again, being indefinitely delayed and removed from the official schedule, which makes it sound like there's a really good chance it's just never going to materialize. Which is kind of unfortunate for Disney and Lucasfilm, how this is all played out, considering the biggest movie of this current year has been Top Gun Maverick, a movie that focuses on, having fun, giving us amazing visuals, and a solid story to go along with it, which is exactly what Rogue Squadron could have been. It could have, in a sense, capitalized off the success of that film and merged Top Gun with Star Wars and probably made a killing at the box office. And you gotta know Disney is not happy about that missed opportunity, or not happy that they're not making any box office money off of Star Wars at all, and won't be for years yet. And though sure, COVID can take some or a lot of the blame for not committing to any sort of real ambitious plan these past few years, but what I think the aforementioned success of Top Gun Maverick kind of signaled, after some worried COVID might do irreparable damage to the film industry, is that people really, really want to go back to the movie theaters and have a good time with films. They want to go see films like, well, a good Star Wars movie. And yet, here we are, waiting at least 3 more years for the next one. And look, I'm not saying that I want to see Lucasfilm rush out a film just to rush out a film, or that I want them to have a helter-skelter release schedule when they do finally start making films again, whenever that is. That's the last thing I want to see, and I fully believe the problem with the sequels was jumping in headfirst without any real sort of plan. But this is getting kind of sad at this point, that they literally cannot seem to pull themselves together over there at Lucasfilm and get a film made, or even allude to any type of plan that they may be forming or about to implement. Or that when they maybe do have a plan, like with Rogue Squadron, it falls apart because they don't hire people who actually want to make Star Wars or want to make it their priority, which is baffling to me and kind of embarrassing for them to announce a movie, give it a release date even, and then have to cancel it because the person you hired to do it wants to do a bunch of other things first. And I think the question has to be at this point, where is the accountability? Flat out, how does Kathleen Kennedy still have a job? I mean, imagine taking arguably the most popular film franchise in history, creating a trilogy of films that sees box office revenue cut in half by the end of it, creating 2 movies outside of that trilogy, one of which, yes, was very successful, but the other one loses money. Then it takes you another 6 years at least to get your next film out the door. What kind of definition for incompetence do they even have over there at Disney that they're okay with what's going on at Lucasfilm? And yes, I know, they or Star Wars has had success on Disney+. The Mandalorian in particular has helped sell the streaming platform for them. And even if you want to give full credit to Kennedy for The Mandalorian, that is still only succeeding at half her job. And I'm pretty sure if she was let go, that Favreau and Filoni would be able to cope with her loss and carry on just fine with what they've been doing with The Mandalorian and other shows. In fact, they might be able to handle it even better if someone like Favreau was made president of Lucasfilm, and along with Filoni formulated a plan for the films already that brought Star Wars then back to the big screen, and not only back, but made it king of the big screen once again. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think about all this. Are you upset about Rogue Squadron seemingly being all but canceled? Did you really want to see that film get made? And what do you think about Kennedy? Are you surprised she is still the president of Lucasfilm, that she has not been fired or replaced? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.